You say you a gangster, but you never pop nothing. We say you're wankster, then you need to stop fronting. Hello and welcome to Tricks of the S-Dre channel. That was just a little bit of a tune of a song from 50 Cent called Wankster. Because today, this particular video is dedicated to all the gangsters and the wannabe gangsters around the world. And every gangster, anybody who wants to be a gangster, would have probably come up with the name Al Capone. You know, a lot of people want to model their lives according to Al Capone and how they lived. But little did they know that Al Capone was not the gender that he claimed, as we're going to find out in today's video. So today's video is dedicated to all the gangsters around the world. We're trying to make them understand that to be a gangster doesn't mean that you need to be handling a gun and acting tough and talking tough. It's got nothing to do with that. If you really want to be a gangster, all you need to do is tell the truth and be bold about telling the truth. That's the best way I can put it. So that's the only way you're going to be a gangster. So if you're really a gangster, you need to start speaking up against the Vatican, who's been constructing your reality and your false sense of reality for you so that you can live your life according to the dictates of how they want you to be. So if it's your first time on our channel, I'd like to welcome you because today we're featuring Al Capone. And let me just move you over to know who Al Capone is. Al Capone right here. Let's see what the Wikipedia page says. He was born Alphonse Gabriel Capone, Italian, January 17, 1899, January 25, 1947. That's when he died. Sometimes known by the nickname Scarface. And a lot of you guys have probably watched the movie Scarface by Al Pacino. And everybody wants to sound like Al Pacino, trying to be all gangster and talking out from the corner of their lips and trying to sound Italian and all that nonsense that has to do with a lot of nonsense, that the false machismo which the Vatican wants you guys to have. Well, if you read into Al Capone's webpage right here, you could pause the video at any point in time, copy out this link, or just get on your search engine and just type in Al Capone. It's going to lead you to a wiki page right here, and you can just read up and see what's going on here and see the false sense of history which the Vatican constructs for us every day. Because people, you have to understand that we are controlled by what we read, what we see, and what we hear, which is history. That's the interpretation or the meaning or the definition of history. And here, the Vatican constructs history every day for us by the false stories they tell us so that we can build our lives around those false stories, which will only put us in one way or the other into a lane that they can control. So let's read up on some things here on Al Capone. He says early life and education. He says Al Capone was born in Brooklyn borough of New York on January 17, 1899. His parents were Italian immigrants, Gabriel Capone and Teresa Capone. His father was a barber and his mother was a seamstress, both born in Angri, a town in the province of Salerno. It says here Gabriel and Teresa had 9 children, so that's a Vatican code of number. If you're first time on the channel and you've heard me say that, a Vatican code of numbers, please get on the channel and look for the playlist called Vatican Code of Numbers, or look specifically for the video on Lisa Lopez or Lisa Lopes. I don't know if the name is pronounced Lopez or Lopes, but the spelling is Lopes. So let's keep on reading so you guys can understand that this was all arranged by the Vatican, right? They're leaving this Vatican Code of Numbers here, 9, which is a multiple of 3. For more in-depth details and analysis on the Vatican Code of Numbers, even though when we talk about the Vatican Code of Numbers, we don't want you to pay any special attention to it and be dragged into that, delusion or deception of looking at numbers, all right? Because it's demonic according to the Bible. We're just making understand that these numbers showing up is not by coincidence, that they are there for a purpose, so you can know when the Vatican is talking. So let's keep on reading about Al Capone here. It says Alphonse Al Capone Vinces, who later changed his name. So that means Al Capone's name was Alphonse Al Capone. And you want to take a good look at this picture of Al Capone right here, as you can see. That doesn't look like the picture of any young boy. It looks like the picture of a man. But let's get back into reading the webpage on Al Capone. So it says here, as we continue on, it says that Alfonso Al Capone, who later changed his name to Richard Hart and became a prohibition agent in Houma, Nebraska, Raphael James Capone, also known as Ralph Bottles Capone, who took charge of his brother's beverage industry, Salvatore Frank Capone, Emina Capone, who died at the age of 1, Emina John Capone, Albert Capone, Matthew Capone, and Mafalda Capone, who married John J. Martorti. Ralph and Frank worked with him in this criminal empire. Frank did so until his death on April 1st, 1924. Ralph ran the bottling companies, both legal and illegal, early on, and was also the frontman of the Chicago outfit for some time until he was imprisoned for tax evasion in 1932. The Capone family immigrated to the United States after first moving to the nearby Fiume in Austria-Hungary in 1893. From that port city, they traveled on to a ship to the U.S., where they settled at 95 Navy Street. So this is all Vatican code and symbology to let people understand that these people were a constructed family, because here they landed at 95 Navy Street, which is a symbolism for the army, that the army which is always the army which is always run by the Vatican. All armies in the world are controlled by the Vatican. If they don't control the whole entire army, they control the leaders of the army all around across the world. They're all paid by the Catholic bishops and archbishops in every country, or if not, by the imams and Muslim clerics who are directly connected to the Vatican. That's how the Vatican runs the world. Those army guys only report directly to the Vatican. Don't even report to the head of states or the presidents of the country. They report directly to the people who pay them. So the Vatican code of numbers here is it's already in here. It's a 9, as is usual, for you to understand. It's for those. So this is how the Vatican talks to its people around. Okay. To the people who are also in the Vatican, who can pick up this article and read and know, okay, this is the code and the symbology that's making us know that Al Capone is one of us. So that's why they put all this symbolism here, the Vatican code of number, and then give it a Navy Street in this particular article on Al Capone and his life. So let's keep on reading. It says, where they settled at 95 Navy Street in the Navy Yard section of downtown Brooklyn. Gabriel Capone worked at a nearby barber shop at 29 Park Avenue. So the number shows up again there, all right? The multiple of 3, because 3 times 3 is a 9, and they give you 2 9s here, all right? Another Vatican code of number. So we continue reading. When Al was 11, now you guys should remember that 11 is always another Vatican code of numbers. For example, when September 11 happened, it happened on 9/11. All right, 9/11. It happened 9/11. That's why they call it September 11, because the date that it happened was the 11th of September. So that's another Vatican code of number right there. It goes on to say the Capone family moved to 38 Garfield Place, right? That's another Vatican code of numbers. So the number keeps on showing up, because if you multiply 3 by 8 here is 24. And 2 plus 4, because 24 is made of 2 numbers, 2 and 4. If you add 2 plus 4, it's 6. It's all Vatican deception to let people know that Al Capone was one of them. So a lot of the histories, so a lot of people are going around in the world, want to be a gangster, just like 50 Cent says here, which we find some sort of symbolism in this particular song, because it looks like this whole 50 Cent songs called Gangster was all dedicated to mocking the public, to let them know that if you're trying to be a gangster, that you're going under a false sense of history, that there's no such thing, that the person, the almighty gangster that you call, maybe you're looking up to, who could be Al Capone, was not even a gangster. He was a fraudster. That's the best way I can put it, because if you look at 50 Cent's lyrics here, you understand that he's just totally mocking you. And let me just read some of it so you guys can see what's going on. He says, you say you were gangster, but you never popped nothing. Why? Because probably Al Capone never popped or killed anybody. All the people that were killed around her probably was who maybe the Vatican killed, and then they just laid the name in that it was Al Capone who made all those decisions, all right? Then you say, we say you were gangster. That's why he's saying, so I want you to listen to the lyrics so you can understand. He says, you say you were gangster, but you never popped nothing. We say you a wankster, and you need to stop fronting. So that's what he's trying to tell you, that gangsters, the people or the so-called gangsters that you've been looking up, are merely fronts, because they haven't done anything. Okay? So let me read one more line from this particular verse. I think I'm going to read from the very last, I think, verse, or the bridge of the song rather, as it says here. It says, me, I'm no mobster. Me, I'm no gangster. Me, I'm no hitman. Me, I'm just me. So 50 Cent in the song is just trying to tell you that, being a gangster and a hitman it's all a fabrication right here. And then he says, me, I'm no wankster. Me, I'm no actor. Why would he say I'm no actor? Because this is just the Vatican very good at work here. He's trying to make you understand that they're all actors, because the very next line shows you that he means that he's an actor, because he says, but it's me you see on your TV. All right? Who do you see on TV? Actors, right? And a lot of people follow after Al Capone and want to be a hard, tough guy instead of being the tough dude that they should be in telling the truth and speaking up and letting people know about who the Vatican is and telling the truth. So that's the only way you can be a gangster in this world. Tell the truth. Tell about what's going on in your world. All right. So if it's your first time on our channel, I'd like to welcome you right here. If you heard all this and you want to continue watching this video, we suggest that you pause this video right here and go look for the primer video first. Watch the primer video and have a solid foundation for all the videos that we make on this channel, so that you can watch and understand what we say. Without you watching the primer video, you're going to be leaving comments in the comment sections and asking questions like, I don't understand this. I don't understand this. How do the parents do this and that? And do this mutilated people, which they call transgenders, have any genitalia and all sorts? Why do they look like maybe the parents? And how come they look like the parents if the parents are transgender, and all that sort of questions? That's why you need to watch the primer video. So if it's your first time on our channel, I'm going to point you to the primer video. You can go watch that, and then when you come back, you can continue watching this particular video. So let's do that. The primer video will be the oldest video on the channel. It also has a playlist called Primer, and it also has like 3 or 4 more videos in there which we think will be very, very helpful to a new subscriber if you watch all of this, especially the Primer 2, Theory of Surrogates, and Theory of Surrogates part number 2 right here, which will help you and give you a basic foundation to watching all the videos that we have on our channel. Also, with every video that we have, if you're a new subscriber, there is a link in the description section. I'm hovering my mouse right over it. This link in the description section will take you to a document. The document is going to be called Male versus Female Visual Differences. We advise that you download this document and you study it on your own, because it will help you to be able to identify the female and the male based on the secondary male and female characteristics, as well as the primary, which is the most important aspect of that you should get to know if you're trying to differentiate the sexes when you're looking at them. So what you have to understand is this. A lot of people base their transvestigation based on the secondary and female male characteristics. And when you do that, you're going to end up wrong. Why are you going to end up wrong? Because first of all, if you don't have the primary right, the secondary is not going to line up. And sometimes you can get the secondary right, but since the primary is wrong, all right, all that is going to go haywire. So what you have to understand is, like, everything in life is based on the primary. So for example, let's say when kids grow up, they go to a primary school before they go to what they call a secondary or high school. So that's the best way I can put it. So without going to the primary, you can't get into secondary because that's advanced level. So you have to start with the basics right so you can get the secondary right. So the primary difference between male and female lies in the skeletal structure, because nothing can change the skeletal structure. Once it's been set and determined at conception or birth, nothing can change the skeletal structure. So that's why from dead remains of human beings, we can identify the sexes, because nothing can change the skeletal structure. The secondary part can be changed through surgery, can be changed to hormones, because you have to understand that we live in a world which is full of poisons, because the Vatican is constantly feeding us poison to make us weak. Now, why is that the case? You have to understand this. Somebody who is weak in his body can never be strong in his mind. That's just the best way I can explain it. But someone who is strong in his mind will of necessity also be strong in his body. So the Vatican wants us to be weak in body, because through the body they can reach the mind. Because if you're sickly and you're not strong, your mind is not going to be functioning right, because all the time the infirmities that in your body is always going to be constantly speaking in your mind. All right. So that's why the Vatican is so much interested in making sure that they feed us and poison us day in and night. There's poisons in the water, there's poisons in the air, there's poisons in the food we eat, there's poisons in the clothing that we wear. And all this is deliberate. It's not by mistake. So for example, you get a lot of guys will hear that there is a fluoride in your toothpaste, which makes people to be docile and manipulable to instructions, or manipulable to instructions. That's the best way I can put it. So you have to understand that when you take fluoride, your ability to think is short-circuited. So you can't think properly. All you're merely doing is just accepting what you're being told, and you go on accordingly. Because if you look at all the lies and deceptions that has been told to us throughout history, when you stop now for a second and think about it, you ask yourself these questions. Why didn't I see through all this? How could I fall for such simple foolishness and stupidity and never ever stop to think about it? It's because a lot of us have been poisoned, especially with fluoride, which we take every morning through our toothpaste. All right? So the poisons is deliberate. So for example, here there is a lot of, like let's say I think the chemical in a lot of water bottles and linings of cell foods is I think is it BHP or BP. I don't quite remember the name right now, but it's some sort of poison which breaks down and turns into estrogen in our bodies. All right. And it's making us to be, people to be more over sexualized, and making people to not come out like the man, and men now look feminine and the women look even more feminine. So that's just the best way I can put it. So that's why you have to concentrate on the primary. Get the primary right if you're trying to find out the gender of someone, because if you go to the secondary, you're going to end up wrong. And with all the poisons that's fed in a food, water, and air we breathe, is constantly making that the female and male secondary characteristics are all muddled up. So for example, you find out that women have facial hair, they have very deep masculine voices, they have broad shoulders, and they can grow some Adam's apple, and they can have chest hair. All right. But the skeletal structure, the primary skeletal structure of that female will never change, because even though she has broad shoulders, the location of her hips will always below the crotch, because that's what makes a woman a woman. Okay. And for males, you can find out that men are very feminized, and some of them have some sort of fatty tissue in the chest that makes them look like they are growing breast. And you have males with no facial hair, and they have very small, tiny voices like females. This is all because of the hormones and poisons that are fed to us day in and night. So that makes the secondary and female characteristics not to line up. So the only way you can determine the gender of someone is to do it the way it's been done throughout the ages, which the Vatican covers up and doesn't let you know, is that you're only male or female based on your skeleton. Because the skeleton of a woman is designed to give birth. And because of that, that's what differentiates her from a male. So the skeleton of a woman is designed in such a way that she has an arch in her back because her pelvis is tilted forward, so that a baby can stay inside the womb for the 9 months of conception that she's going to go through. She has hips below the crotch. She has, an arch in the back and a very wide pubic arch, so that a baby can come out of that womb. So that's what differentiates the female skeletal structure. She's designed to give birth. So on our channel, when you come out and try to label someone a transgender, and you go off the secondary characteristics of saying things like the person has facial hair, has Adam's apple, has a strong jawline, has a large skull, the ring index finger is longer than the other, which is always false, and you say such things like the person has an Adonis belt, on a channel we're going to block you, because you're slandering and trying to muddle the waters and to leave us more confused, like, which is the Vatican's aim and goal, to make us even more confused about agendas, and we'll block you from that. So you have to provide links of pictures based on the primary skeletal structure of a woman, if the person has or does not have it, to show proof that this person is really not the gender they claim. All right, that's how we do it on the channel. Anything else is considered slander, and you get blocked. So let's dive into this document because we want to finish this up because we're going to be talking about so many other things before we end up with Al Capone on this particular video. So first of all, we want to talk about, show you from this document the differences between a male and a female based on the skeletal structure. All right. So as you can see right here, a female has an arch in the back. And why does a female have an arch in the back? Because her pelvis is tilted forward. Why is the female pelvis tilted forward? So that a baby can stay inside this pelvic region for the 9 months of conception the baby goes through before he or she is born into this world. That's why a female has a tilted pelvis forward. Also, the arch is extra support for the weight distribution of pregnancy across the body so that this baby doesn't have any problems walking, okay, or working, so she doesn't hurt herself and her baby. So depending on where you draw the arch in a female's back, if you draw it from below the shoulder blade, sorry to say, it's going to form a deep C arch in the back. If you draw it from high above the shoulder blades, it's going to form an S-shaped spine. That's how a female's back is, because all that is designed for childbirth. All right. So with males have a straight back. As you can see here, this man has no arch in his back before it hits the pelvic region. That's because a man's back is straight. A man's back arches outwards. It doesn't arch inwards like that of a female. If a man's back wants to arch, it's going to arch into the shape of a D or a P, as you see here. So remember those letters for a male back. It's shaped like a D or a P, and it's a straight back into the pelvis with no arch. Scroll forward into the document just to show you what a female back looks like, to show you that it's much more flexible than that of a man because she has an arch in her back. All right, as you can see here, there's a female kneeling down. She has this deep C arch in her back because her pelvis is tilted forward. It doesn't matter what size the female comes in, whether she's big, tall, small, tiny, her ethnicity, color of hair, color of skin. It doesn't really matter. A female always has an arch in her back right here. As you can see, a big female to the left of a screen, arch in the back. A small female to the right of a screen, arch in the back, pelvis both tilted forward, because that's how a female is shaped. And people, there is a lot to the skeletal structure of males and females that a lot of people don't know. This is something that we haven't put in the document, but it's something that I just want to throw out there so you guys start looking at it. A woman's eyes, the eyes of a female, is shaped differently from the eyes of a male. When I say shaped differently, all females have the same shape in their eyes. It's males that have very different kind of eyes. All right. The shape of the eyes of males are different across all males, but with females, the shape of the female eye is the same across every ethnicity, every tribe, and every nation. All female eyes are shaped the same way. It's something that maybe if we have time, we'll make a video on it. All women's eyes are shaped the same. Male's eye, the eyes of a male, are shaped differently, and they're different across ethnicities, nationalities, and tribes for the males. But for the females, all across the world, the shape of the female eye is the same. But this is something that a lot of people don't know because you're not studying it, and you really can't tell. But if you want to start looking at it, I want you to start looking at the eyes of every female that you come across. It doesn't matter what ethnicity she comes in, if she's Asian, as the modern day Asians today, or she's black, as they call all people who have woolly hair, or she has straight hair. It doesn't matter the color of the skin. All women's eyes are the same. Take out your time and make that study, and you find out. All right. So here's a muscular female, as you can see right here. She still has an arch in the back because nothing can change the skeletal structure. Doesn't matter what drugs that she's on. Doesn't matter if she's working out and getting bigger muscles like this. Nothing can change the skeletal structure. Another female here with an arch in her back. All right. So let's go over and play a clip to show you where the location of the female hip is, because a lot of people get confused because you get in a lot of these fake transgender or channels which was going to tell you stuff like that the female, to be a female means you have some sort of shoulder to hip ratio. So if you have wider shoulder than your hips, then you're male. But there's no such thing. It's the location of the hip. that determines if you're female or not, because every female in this world has the location of her hips below her crotch. And that brings me to something. Somebody sent me an email a couple of days ago. And I know that this person has to be from the Vatican, because they were trying to make me well, I wouldn't say confused, because they should know at this point in time I'm not confused about what I say. All right. But trying to muddle the waters and tell me that, Rob Lowe, for example, is a man. We recently made a video on Rob Lowe, and that Rob Lowe could have taken some sort of drugs that can change and make the male to have, hips that are above, his sorry, make him to have hips that are below the crotch, and make the male to be female. So I asked him in very simple terms, because he was trying to use himself as an example, that he's an example of a man, but he has hips below his crotch. And I told him in very simple terms, send us pictures. So if you're trying to prove that what we're saying is wrong on our videos, all right, even though you see it every day in your own lives, just send us a picture. Send us a picture. We don't want to see your face. Send us a picture from you from the front and from the back, in boy shots. So let us see that you can be the first man in the world with hips below his crotch. And then we can knock out all these videos and say that we've been misleading people for a very long time, and issue a public apology and shut this channel down ourselves, without the Vatican trying to shut us down themselves. So if you can do that and prove, right, that you're a man, okay, send us a picture that you're the first male that has hips below his crotch, that will know that everything else that we've talked about concerning the gender is all false. So let's move on and play that short clip, so we can continue on with this particular video, so we can talk about a few things that we want to talk about. So here is a clip right here. As you can see, here's a picture of a regular female. When we mean regular female, it means that because regular female, the way they're supposed to be shaped, regular female's hips are supposed to be the widest portion in her body. All right. So that means for every female, the widest portion in her body is supposed to be her hips, which is going to be below the crotch. Because for regular males, the widest portion in every male is always going to be the shoulders, which is always going to be wider than the male's hips. But in females, the widest portion in the female body is the hips, which is below the crotch. So that's what we mean by a regular female. Does that mean that if you're a female and you have your shoulders wider than your hips, that you're not a woman? No, of course not. The location of the hip determines if you're female or not, because the location of every female's hips is below the crotch. So this particular clip is showing a female that's going to be measured into clothes, because that's how female are measured into every clothes that's sewn all around the world, because it's standard. Because without this, a lot of the clothes that a female would wear would not fit if females had varying degrees in their varying places in their body for the location of their hips. The location of every female hip is below the crotch, and this is how all female clothes are sewn around the world. So this tape is going to go around to measure that particular portion, so you guys can see where it's at. As you can notice right there, tape goes round and it is below the crotch, below it, not above it. Okay, so this is why a female also has an hourglass figure, because with a regular female, if you're a woman, you will notice that you start getting wider from underneath your elbows. Your pelvis or your body starts getting wider, and the widest portion will always be the hips, which is below the crotch. Now, why are the hips below the crotch? The hips are below the crotch so that they can be out of the way for childbirth. All right? And the female has a wider hip because she has a wider pubic arch. Because of the wider pubic arch, everything in the female pelvis is farther apart in the body, and that's why the hips are farther apart, necessary for childbirth. The Q angle of a female starts below the crotch. What is the Q angle? The Q angle is the angle between the hip and the knee, and for every female, it starts below the crotch. For males, the Q angle is going to start above the crotch. All right? And females always have a much more acute Q angle than that of a male. All right? So this lady is going to turn around from the back so you can see the location of the female hip from the back. Because I always tell this to everybody. If you have difficulty and cognitive dissonance, which a lot of us are suffering from because the Vatican has hit this upon our psyche in trying to determine if you're looking at a woman or a man, all you need to do is try to see if you can find a picture of a female or the picture of what person you're looking into from the back. Because once you see a woman from the back or a man from the back, you're going to be able to tell that's a man and that's a woman, because how acute the Q angle shows from the back. So in this female's case right here, with every female, the Q angle of a female is slightly above the bum line, and so are her hips, just slightly above the bum line. If this person was a man, this Q angle or his hips would be farther away from this bum line, indicating that you're looking at a male. So if you're looking at a picture and you find out that the Q angle of that person is so far away from this bum line, then you should know that that person is a man. Okay? So with that said, let's go over and talk about some few things before we finish up with the transvestigation of Al Capone, America's gangster. So as you know, the Vatican is hard at work trying to shut us down for telling you guys the truth, because they don't want you to understand your world. They want you to live in the continual cognitive dissonance and the fabricated lies in history which they've been feeding to us since they came into power in the late 1400s, when they started ruling Europe, and then from Europe getting into a lot of places which they've turned and making them to be of pale skin and straight hair. So the Vatican doesn't want you guys to know the truth concerning your world, and with each and every video we make, which is trying to make you understand the puzzles and why things are the way they are, they keep on landing strikes on account, trying to shut us down. So we do not know how long this particular channel is going to be up. So that's why we put information in a book, because the number one problem that the Vatican has always faced, the Vatican, which started out to be black with woolly hair, has always been with a book. And that book happened to be the Geneva Bible, as well as King James Bible. So that's why we're putting all this information in a book for you. So we please suggest that you get the book, because it's the most, we feel is the most important book that you may ever have had besides your Geneva Bible and your King James Bible. Because all what we're doing is trying to tie the pieces of the puzzle to make you understand how the dots connect and what's being hit to you through the false religion of Christianity, which has turned the Bible upside down such that the Bible has lost its meaning. The Bible is literal. It's not symbolic in any way at all. The Bible uses symbolism because it's trying to construct a language to tell people of what is going on in the future. And sometimes the writers of those particular Bible portions did not have words in their time to explain what they saw in the future. So they made up words for it. All right. So that's the only thing. The Bible is literal from start to finish. Just like I make a lot of people understand in our book. That's why you need to get a book. It's very, very important. That spirituality is a physical thing. It's not some sort of esoteric thing that you can get, you can think of in your mind. It doesn't have anything to do with ghosts or aliens. Everything that is spiritual is physical. That means physical, something that you can touch, something you can see, and something you can handle. Just like you see your father, your mother, the clothes you wear, your children, the pencil, the pen, the TV, the phone that you carry. Every spiritual thing is physical. Heaven has a physical location. It's above us. Hell has a physical location, is beneath us, and it's showing every day. For example, in the volcanic eruptions that going on in Hawaii right now, which is reported all around the world in the news, because the Vatican wants you to believe in the concept of global warming. What you see coming out from the earth in the form of molten lava is what the Bible talks about as a lake of fire. And remember, the lake of fire, all these volcanic eruptions and earthquakes that are happening, are specifically happening around the area that's called the Circum-Pacific Ring of Fire. And what does circum mean? Circum means a circle. It's from the word circle that you have secum. And the Bible talks about a lake of fire. And that whole second Pacific ring of fire looks like a lake. It's all encircled as a lake. So that's what you're seeing every day. So please get our book and have a full understanding of what we're saying, because everything that we talk about to you on the video is just 5% of the book. We do not even touch anything at all, because we cannot make enough videos to tell you the truth about your world. So that's why you need the book. The book is the price it is because we don't own any printing press. If we owned the printing press today, the book would cost as cheap as $10 and probably would even make it for free, because that was what our intention was until we found out the cost for printing. The Vatican doesn't want you making books because they know that's the only way that real history can be told and people can get all the information that they need. So please work towards it, save towards it. If you've ever bought a TV, bought anything expensive in your life, you can pay for an apartment, have a house, bought a car, bought some jewelry, bought some sort of game, you can save and get the book, because all what we're trying to do is get information in your hands. We're not just trying to sell you a book. I want you guys to understand that. All right? So the Vatican is hard at work trying to shut us down, and they've landed these strikes on our account, and you all know sooner or later this channel will go down. They landed the first strike on account for a Selena Q video. Because we were telling the world that Selena Q is not the gender that she claimed, and that she's been deceiving, or he rather has been deceiving, the whole Hispanic world for a very, very long time. And they landed a strike on account and said that we had nudity on that video. But if you've watched any of our videos, you'll find out that we have no such thing as nudity or sexual content or any sexual innuendos. All what we do is try to make you understand your world. So the Vatican is very, very sneaky because they are of the devil and they're doing the devil's work. All right? They are not of God. All right? So if you're interested in watching the Selena Q video, please get on the channel and look for the Bono video. It will give you instructions on how to watch it. And on this other particular strike, they landed for the real gender, not transgender or transsexual series, part number 4 right here, and said that we were harassing and bullying people. I wonder how we can harass and bully people when we are making videos. When you go to a store and you buy a video, a very violent video that talks all the nonsense, or you go to a store and buy music that's talking about raping women, all right? Giving women degrading names, insulting you, and giving you every sense of immorality that you can think of in this world. Is that not considered bullying? Is that bullying or not? So when the Vatican creates all this crazy, because they run the entire media industry and entertainment, all these crazy things, they don't say it's harassment and bullying. But here we're making videos and trying to tell you the truth, and they say we're harassing and bullying people. The only reason why they landed this falsification for a strike on this particular video is because on that video, we made people understand that the so-called hoax, which happened in the Las Vegas shooting, is trying to take away the Second Amendment, which the woolly head presidents, which are now fabricated to be white and painting white in all, portraits and pictures of the presidents of history before or after Abraham Lincoln. Sorry, before Abraham Lincoln, were all black woolly haired men, which are now labeled to be white by the white elite who are currently running the United States now, because they did not always run it. They're trying to take us the Second Amendment away so that people don't have a right to guns to defend themselves when the Vatican starts sending their law enforcement into your homes, because the law enforcement works for the Vatican. They don't work for the public. They are there to protect you from the Vatican. They go around all the crazy, they go around all the homes of very poor people in the United States, harassing them, the poor neighborhoods which they've put in check, all right? Harassing them instead of going about looking at the main perpetrators of all the crime in this world, which happens to be the Vatican and the whole entire political system, which is engineered by them. So we're not harassing anybody. We're just telling you the truth, as you will find out on this video if you continue to watch. So please get our book. All the information is on the screen on how to get it. You send us an email. If you don't get a response in the email, because we usually try to respond to every email under 24 hours or 48 hours at the most. If you don't get a response in 48 hours, then you send us a text. I will leave all our information on the screen so you can send us a text. If you call us, the phone's not designed to take any calls right now because we don't want to be answering so many calls at the moment, because we don't have a call center, somebody to be answering the calls all the time. So you send us a text and we'll respond to that text, which is far more easier, and give you instructions on how to get the book. It's very, very important that you get the book. Treat it as a matter of life or death, because it is necessary. It's the only history belief we have left, so that you can pass it on to your generations and generations after, so they have some sort of history, so that when they pick up the Geneva Bible and the King James Bible, everything now makes sense when you have the book as well. So with that said, let's continue on and into what we want to talk about before we get into the transvestigation of Al Capone and wrap up this video. Let's do that. So recently, the Pope made some comments about homosexuality, because we've always made people understand that the whole religion, every religion in this world is false, especially the Christian religion. So when you get into a church and you're saying you're going to church, you're going to the synagogue of Satan. When you get our book, you get that full understanding that the church is the synagogue of Satan, which the book of Revelation talks about. Is the synagogue of Satan. It's not a synagogue, because people make that have that misunderstanding when they hear synagogue. The Bible, when it talks about a synagogue, will say synagogue, but synagogue of Satan means synagogue of Satan. Is not in reference to any synagogue. Okay, when you get a book, you get understanding. So the Pope, sorry to say before I said the Pope said in this exclusive comments, you could pause the video at any point in time, copy out that link right there, and go read up on it. He said, God loves you, how the Pope's inclusive comments on homosexuality could change America's Catholic schools. The Pope is not of God, because the Vatican runs us all. As much as they will want to deny it, as much as they want to make like they don't exist, like they don't matter, because when people, this reality is constructed in such a way that once you hear anything about the Pope or the Catholic Church, all right, all what you're focused on is just that the Catholic Church is just a Catholic Church in itself. So it's more like some sort of, let's say a very localized information in which your mind just thinks about the Pope only as a Catholic Church. And when you hear that word church, your mind immediately goes to God. This is all mental control. All this form of wearing clerical garb and, talking like you're very humble and you can't hurt a fly is all a distraction. So you guys don't know that the controllers of the whole entire world lies in the Vatican because of this clerical garb that they wear. But when you look at the statements, because if the Pope really stands for the Bible, which he claims, he would never, ever in the slightest way talk to you about homosexuality, because everything from start to finish in the Bible is against homosexuality. What happened with Sodom and Gomorrah when black woolly-haired people in a whole entire city were homosexuals? God himself came down from heaven and destroyed that city, such that it's no longer in the earth today. So for anybody who says that he's of God to treat homosexuality, all right, as it's a norm, as something that they should accept under the falsehood of saying that they worship God, they're suffering from a very bad delusion. And whatsoever happened to Sodom and Gomorrah will likely most happen to them as well at the end of time, when God judges all things. Homosexuality is nothing that you should be trampled upon and taken lightly if you are looking, or if you're searching for God of the Bible, whose name is Yahweh, whose son's name is Yehoshua, only called his son because a woman gave birth to him. That's all what it is. But Yehoshua is God himself. If you're interested in that God, you should have nothing to do with homosexuality. But here the Pope is trying to deceive you. So what he said, when you read this particular article, You're gonna be laughing so much at the ridiculousness of the albino elite who currently run this world today and tell us so many stupid things. Now, I'm just going to read part of this article. Like I said, at any point in time, you can pause the video, copy out the link, and go read it up on yourself. But let me just read this conversation so you can know. I mean, when you read, you just start. Some of these things just make me laugh out so hard. But let's read it all the same. It says here, unexpectedly, the Pope responded by affirming his sexuality. All right. Here's the man trying to talk to the Pope about his, that he's a homosexual. And here's what the conversation, how the conversation went. It could be constructed, it could be real, but even though it's real or constructed, they're all acting this out. So that's one thing you have to know. So I read, it says, I told him that I kept my faith. This is the homosexual man talking, right, to the Pope. I told him that I kept my faith and that I tried to be a good person and not hurt anybody. You hear this word a lot, a good person. A lot of people think that God is going to accept you because you're a good person. There is no such thing in the Bible. No such thing that God is going to accept you because you do good unto others. That means good is going to come unto you. It's never happened. The greatest example is in Yehoshua, who was a good man according to the Bible, declared a righteous man, not just good. But what did Yehoshua go through? He was killed. He was tortured and killed as a good man. So do you think that being good, that any good thing is going to happen to you, or that God is going to accept you? Even Yehoshua on the cross said, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? He was a good man, but God forsook him. Why? Because goodness can never make you stand right before God. Righteousness can never make you stand right before God. The only thing that can make you have a right standing with God, which doesn't mean that your whole world is going to line up and things are going to go right just because God accepts you, is by you accepting Yehoshua, receiving Yehoshua. That's what the Bible says. Okay? And even then, things are still not going to go right. Because as long as you live in this world, you'll always go through trouble. Because the accuser of the world is still in the world and hasn't gone away. And his name is Satan. So don't get into the misconception that being good is going to make God accept you and that you're going to have no trouble in this world. You're going to have more trouble than ever when you come to God. That's what the Bible says. Go read up on it. Everybody from Genesis to Revelation, immediately they got to know God and started walking with him. They had so much trouble than they could ever imagine. What makes you think that you're going to be any different? But Christianity preaches to you a false sense of truth so that they can use you for their own purposes, so that you don't understand the way the world works. Please get a book and get a full understanding of all what I'm saying, or all what I'm saying right now. So let's keep on reading this. It says, I told him that I keep my faith and that I try to be a good person and not hurt anybody. Cruz told El Pei, he said, you have to understand that God made you this way and he loves you. This is what the Pope said. He said, you have to understand that God made you this way and he loves you. If God was so interested in men being homosexuals, then he wouldn't have made any woman in this world. And God does not create anybody a homosexual. It's a choice you make. That's what you have to understand. Homosexuality is a choice. You were not born that way. It's a choice you make. Just like you make a choice of eating fish and chips over something else. If you give in to that choice, you cannot say that you were made that way. Was anybody born with fish and chips in his mouth? No. You make the choice to eat fish and chips. It's that simple. If you want to get out of homosexuality, it's very, very simple. Start dating someone of the opposite sex. And stop thinking about somebody of the same sex. It's that simple. Over time, you're going to love it. Somebody might say, I'm a homosexual. I don't really enjoy well, I don't want to, let me go down there because I don't want to turn this video into something else that it's not. It's very, very simple. If you want to stop being homosexual, just start getting involved with people of the opposite sex. It's that simple. And stop thinking. Replace, because in order to quit a bad habit, you have to replace it with another habit. Otherwise, you're going to keep on doing the same thing. If you find yourself thinking about men, you have to replace those thoughts and start thinking about a woman. And start thinking about how attractive a woman is. Same with a female. If you find yourself thinking about women, start thinking about how men are attractive. Force yourself to think those thoughts. And then you're going to replace it. And go start dating someone of the opposite sex. It's that simple. So let's finish up this story to see what the Pope here, who works for the devil himself, says. He said you have to understand that God made you this way and he loves you. And the Pope loves you. And you have to love yourself. For the head of a church that views homosexuality as sin, the comment wasn't just meaningful, it was history making. They're trying to massage your minds to hate the Bible. Everything that the albino elite, or the so-called people who they call white today, because I always make people understand this. When you say you're white, white is not an ethnicity. White is not a color either, because there's nobody as white as the color of my screen right here that I'm hovering my mouse over in this world. And the true meaning of white is an absence of color. White is not a color. White is the absence of all color. That's why when you start a painting, you have to start it on a canvas that's white or off-white so you can put some color in it. White is an absence of all color. So when you say you're white, what you're saying is that you're an albino, because it comes from the Latin word albus, which means a lack of melanin. When the albino elites from Asia were overtaking the world and trying to unite all their albino Asian hordes, which was what Genghis Khan did. What he did was try to create a race to bind them. So they came up with the idea, let's call ourselves white instead of the word albino. Why? Because albino shows a strong connotation to a genetic abnormality in which everybody with straight hair has. As long as you have straight hair, you're an albino. So instead of using that word albus or albinic to label themselves, they said, let's use the word white to give us a sense of white superiority over the black woolly haired people that they are trying to downgrade and overtake. So that is what came up on how the concept of the word white was now used in a connotation with human beings of straight hair. Okay? So the Pope here, as you can see right here, can trace his lineage back to Genghis Khan and his generals, because that's where everybody with straight hair who's not in Asia comes from. They have Asiatic blood, or they are Asians. They don't look Asian because they've been mixing with a lot of the black woolly haired people that they conquered all the way from Asia into Europe, into North and South America, that gives them this differentiating feature from the regular Asians that are in Asia, sorry to say. Okay? So for more of this, get our book and get this full understanding. And also get on the channel and watch the Myth of Whiteness series. It's a 15-part series. It will do you a whole world of good to watch that. So anything here that the Vatican is talking about, like the Pope on homosexuality, is to confuse you. Because anybody that gets into the Vatican, because remember the Vatican started out black with woolly hair, they all work for the devil. So if there were black people, because you have to understand we're all black. Albinism just means a lack of melanin by a black person. So we are all black. So if you've ever heard that word and somebody tells you, calls a black person an Nigger, everybody with straight hair as well is also an Nigger. But in this case, they are an albinic one. So we are all Nigger. So if somebody calls you an Nigger, you just have to let them know you're one as two, but you're just an albino one. Okay? So let's get on and talk about a few other things before we can get into Al Capone and wrap up this video. So the next thing I want to talk about is Bill Cosby. And the reason why I'm talking about Bill Cosby is because I had a conversation with a subscriber, a private conversation. I think he or she was trying to ask me the question, what is the reason for Harvey Weinstein? Because on one video, I had made a video, rather we had made a video, and I had talked about the fact that in the system of white supremacy, that everybody black has to be degraded. There has to be no role models that are black with woolly hair, because the devil is controlling the white albino elite to make sure that we deny our history, that we deny ourselves, that we deny that the nature of man is black with woolly hair. Because if the whole world found out that we were all black with woolly hair, then it would show that God indeed created us, because that is the truth, that everybody in this world is black. So the devil is using the white albino elite to make sure that that doesn't happen, that we don't have an understanding that we are all black. And so the concept of race is introduced so that we can all think that we're different, when in all truth, we are all black people. It's only a black human race. The nature of man is black with woolly hair. Because the devil doesn't want you to know that, they have to, using the white elite, to make sure that they downgrade everything that's black with woolly hair, such that you will not have any role models, and possibly those role models can show you the stamp of creation in God Almighty, and it will not point you to Yehoshua. So by denying that we are all black, we are denying our own humanity, and we are denying God. Because, for example, right now, when you got into a church or the synagogue of Satan, which is the proper name to give churches, you find out that the so-called images of the person whom they claim to be God, whose name is Jesus, has pale skin and straight hair. So a lot of people all around the world are being deceived into this, because when they see Yehoshua, a black man with woolly hair, come back as he said he would, they would deny him, because they've been groomed constantly every day to believe that God is a white man or an albino with straight hair. So that image doesn't fit. But when you read your Bible, the Bible doesn't mention anything about Yehoshua being being an albino with straight hair. He says that he is black, and uses the word bronze in the book of Revelations. If you read from, I think, chapter number 1, to make you understand that Yehoshua is a black man with woolly hair. So you would have that understanding. And all through the Bible, it constantly mentions that everybody is black. The Egyptians were black. The Hebrews were black. As all artifacts in this world today show that the Egyptians were black, woolly-haired people, in which the white albino elite today are trying to cover that up so that we get confused. All right? So in Bill Cosby's case here, the reason for all this is because a lot of people, are confused when they see Harvey Weinstein case come up there, because white supremacy, who are the forerunners of racism, don't want you to understand racism. Because when Bill Cosby's case came up, a lot of people who've been looking at history, all through history, would find out that, why is it always the black man? Because it seems like every black man that's a so-called leader is always rubbished, is always degraded, and made to look like the worst person ever just before he dies. So, for example, you find out in Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson was a black man, and before you knew it, his image was rubbish. He became a child molester and painted as a pedophile in the media. True or not, but that's what happened to Michael Jackson just because he was a black man. And before he died, that's the image that he had till he died. Okay? Every black person is always been made to be, his image is always rubbished. So you can never have any black model, a male model. So, for example, Martin Luther King, he was painted in Selma as someone who was having extramarital affairs, and he died before his time. How about Tupac Shakur? You start to notice that this is a trend. Tupac Shakur was brought up on rape charges for raping and sodomizing a lady. How about Tiger Woods, who is deluded and doesn't know that he's a black man, or who he thinks he's not, rather? What happened to Tiger Woods? Tiger Woods came up on the same charges with the same thing, women. Why did it happen to Tiger Woods? Because Tiger Woods would have been the greatest golfer of all time, and he was black. And the white elite did not want a black male to overtake sports which they've denoted to be white sports and be the greatest, because they know black athletes are the greatest athletes in the world because of their genetic superiority. Okay? So they had to make sure that they tamed Tiger Woods from being the greatest golfer so he wouldn't overtake Jack Nicklaus, which we featured on one of our videos, and that Jack Nicklaus was not the gender that he claimed. So that's the reason why Tiger Woods' image was tainted. And today, we don't know if it's through some sort of drug or mental control, Tiger Woods cannot play golf the way he was playing before all these allegations of him running around with many albinic women happened. Okay? So this is a trend that happens to every black male throughout history. Their images have to be ridiculed and rubbish so people do not look. So because this happened to Bill Cosby, because Bill Cosby was the family man, every child knows Bill Cosby. He was the father of black people, technically, as the elite wanted us to believe, because they created the image of Bill Cosby here as a family guy for us. And Bill Cosby, after a while, actually really wanted to be America's dad. So he was doing all the positive things to raise up, especially his so-called black ethnicity, to be role models, to be good fathers and good mothers. And now, because they notice that Bill Cosby is getting old in age, and he's probably going to die, and if he dies, he's going to die a legend. Somebody that black people can actually look up to and say, this was a stand-up guy, he was a correct guy. So his image had to be rubbished. So in doing so, a lot of people started noticing the trend that it seems like this happens to every black male. So in order for them to hide the fact, all right, that they are racist, the white albino elite are racist, because a lot of people don't understand what racism is. They think racism is name calling. For racism to exist, there has to be physical hurt. That means you have to be some sort of injury to a person's body, an injury to his finances for it to be racist. If you think racist is not prejudice, it's not the same thing as prejudice. So if you call someone an nigger, that is not being racist. That is prejudice, because you're not hurting the person physically. That means the person doesn't have any wound on his body, and not hurting the person financially. Don't get sucked into the idea that there's something as as emotional hurt. No feelings, there is no measurement for feelings in this world. It can be quantified. You can't put feelings in a bottle and measure it. There is no mathematical standard for measuring feelings. But that's what the Vatican wants you to believe is racism, prejudice, by calling people names. They make you so confused so you guys don't understand that they need racism to survive. Racism is necessary for the albino elite, otherwise they're going to get bred out. They're going to have much more fewer populations of people that have straight hair and pale skin. Because anytime a black person, all right, gets with an albino and reproduces children, the children will most likely come out black if the person that's black, or one of the parents that's black, does not have any recessive genes of albinism working in her or him. So the Vatican needs racism to survive. And racism has to do with financially hurting someone or hurting the person in their bodies, making them to have some sort of wound for it to be racist. But they want you to feed off prejudices. So this is how confusing they make, people not to understand what racism really is. They want you to think that name calling somebody an nigger, means that you're racist. No. If it was so, black people call other black people Nigger? Why are they not considered racist? Why is there a double standard that black people can use the word, and when somebody of straight hair and pale skin who's also an Nigger uses the word, it becomes racist? They don't want you to have that understanding, so you don't know the perpetrators of who racism, or who, so they don't want you to understand who perpetrates racism. That's why they make it so confusing. Okay? So in this case, because people were starting to notice that this seems to happen to every black male in Bill Cosby's case, they threw in Harvey Weinstein. Why did they throw in Harvey Weinstein? Because they made Harvey Weinstein's case to be so much more popular than than Bill Cosby, such that it came out with hashtags like I forgot what the hashtag what it means. Is it the hashtag say time's up, something like that, from Harvey Weinstein's allegations. So they threw in somebody who was pale skin and straight hair for you to get confused, all right? So that you were thinking along the lines that this always happens to black men. You're going to say, oh, this happened to Harvey Weinstein also. And so you lose the meaning and understanding of what racism is. So that's what they do all the time. They make you confused about prejudice and racism, so that you always going from one to the other, jumping from one confusion to the other, not knowing what it is. So that's the reason why they threw in Harvey Weinstein. But if you're interested in knowing the truth, as I always tell you when studying things, you have to ask certain questions. Why now? That's the most basic question that you always have to ask when you're studying history. Why now? Because remember, history is everything you see, read, or hear. So if you ask the question, why did Harvey Weinstein come up now? Then you would understand that it's all linked in trying to make you not understand that this is a deliberate ploy to make sure that the images of all black males in this world are always rubbished and ridiculed, so you can have no role models, even though you should have no role models in a natural sense, in the truth, because all people that you see who are on TV, who are influencing your world, are directly working for the Vatican. But in this case specifically, they don't want you to make any role models of any person that's black. So they threw in Harvey Weinstein and confused you. So when you're studying the truth, you have to study the question, ask the question, why now? And when you ask the question, why now, it's going to lead you to another question. You have to study the timeline. The timeline will always tell you the truth. Time never lies. If someone says they're 70 years of age, when you look at them, the time will surely tell if they're 70 years or not. If someone is 70 and trying to act 20 or 30, the time on his body and his mannerisms will tell you that this person is not 30 years old, that he's actually 70. Time never lies. So when you study the timeline, then you see the truth. Because in Bill Cosby's assault case, as we read here, as we're going to read here, this assault, as I'm going to read, you can pause the video at any point in time, copy out this link. It's on Bill Cosby in Wikipedia. It says here, assault allegations against Bill Cosby became more public after a stand-up routine by comedian Hannibal Buress became viral in October 2014. So this is when Bill Cosby was starting to get accused for sexual misconduct. And all these beautiful albino women all around the world never ever said anything for over 30 years. Then all of a sudden they came up and started saying that Bill Cosby raped them. It's the same thing that they did with Harvey Weinstein. But in order to understand that this is all a cover-up and a distraction, so you don't understand that this is a deliberate ploy to make sure that all the images of black people are ridiculed and made rubbish, such that you can't have no role models that you can look up to. You need to study the timeline. In Bill Cosby's case, it started in October 24, his allegations. In Harvey Weinstein's case, came after that. And when did it start? In October 2017. That's when it started. 3 years after, so that people wouldn't catch on. Then they made this so popular, and a lot of people came out of the woodwork, a lot of females, God knows how many right now, so that it would look like Harvey Weinstein did it more than Bill Cosby. So that a lot of people will think and say, oh, it's just a Hollywood thing, because that's what they're trying to make you believe, that it's what goes on in Hollywood. Instead of the truth is that they're trying to always make sure that the images of black woolly haired people around the world always come out short. So the world doesn't recognize and have any role models and know that we are all one black people. And the so-called person who brought up this allegation, Sachel Ronan O'Sullivan Farrow, which you have featured on a particular one of our videos on our channel, is not even the gender that he claims, because Ronan Farrow here is a female. He's the one who brought the article up of Harvey Weinstein having ridiculous sexual allegations or sexual advances to so many women over the years, which was never made public until now, because they're trying to cover up the facts so you don't understand that the target was Bill Cosby, and the target is all black males of importance. That's what this is all about. So don't be distracted by the Vatican's mind games, all right? They're playing tricks on your mind. We know what they're up to. So please get a book and get that full understanding of what's going on in your world. And understand that we are all, as they call it, Nigger. We all are. It doesn't matter. If you come out with straight hair and pale skin, you're just an albino, Nigger. And we are all Nigger. But don't go using the word against everybody, because a lot of people are so narrow-minded and don't understand that. But, and the albino elite want you to believe that only black people are Nigger when we all are. All right? So let's get on into the transvestigation of America's gangster in Al Capone. So here's a picture of Al Capone. The man of the Prohibition era was actually a female. As you can see right here, Al Capone has the long butt of a woman, because remember, a woman's butt takes half the torso of her body, because it starts all the way just slightly above her rib cage, which is all the pelvic region, all the way down to her hips. And this is what Al Capone has right here, because you can see, as we always show you, that a female just starts getting wider from underneath her elbows. And this is what's happening to Al Capone. As you can see, she has an arch in his back, and the long butt starts all the way down and goes all the way down here, which is always going to be below his crotch, because Al Capone is 100% female and it's not a man in any way. I want to thank Amy for bringing this to our attention. Amy, I hope you're doing okay. As usual, I'm always checking up on you just to see you're doing okay. You know who you are. All right, so let's get on to the next picture of Al Capone. There's Al Capone again, and the same thing right here shows up. The long butt of a female spreading from underneath the elbows, because Al Capone was a fabricated gangster. Was not a gangster because the Vatican just wanted to use the gangster era for whatsoever reasons that they deemed fit at that point in time, which will show you, which will make you understand in some videos later on down the line. Okay, but nevertheless, Al Capone, he is 100% female, because she has an arch in his back and has the long butt of a female, as you can tell right here, starts spreading from underneath the elbows all the way down, because Al Capone is 100% female and not a man in any way. You could look at that face and know that you've been looking at a woman all along. A fake wannabe gangster, and this could be his handler or her handler, the stooge of the Vatican, because they're always around handling Capone. All right, so let's go to another picture of Al Capone right here. And this is Al Capone in some sort of swim trunk, all right? And this is clear as night and day, all right? The long butt of a female. The butt doesn't start immediately and end abruptly, but goes all the way down here, which is the female hip, which is always right around here, which is below the crotch. And this is what Al Capone has. An arch in the back and the long butt of a female all the way down, all right? So everybody trying to be a gangster, you're a Crip, you're a Blood, or whatever gangster that you are around the world, and thinking that Al Capone was a true gangster and that you're shooting up people and acting all machismo is being gangster, you were looking up at the wrong model. You were fooling out a little woman right here, right? You were fooling a little woman here. And you're thinking that this all what a gangster is supposed to look like and be like and act like and talk like. If you want to be a gangster, tell the truth. Tell the truth about who's running your world and who's running your system, instead of hiding behind a false machismo created by a female that you're looking after when you didn't even pay attention. See how gangster stupid is? Instead of paying attention, looking at the finer details, you're all up in your little egos, doing what the Vatican wants you to do, instead of looking at the truth and telling the truth about the system and who's really running you. Arch in the back, because Al Capone is 100% female and not a man in any way. You've been looking at the wrong person and believing in the wrong person. Be a real gangster and tell the truth about who the Vatican is and be not afraid. That's what you ought to do. Let's go to the next video. Here's Al Capone again. Just take a look at this. Let me blow this up as much as I can. Is that a man standing right there? Look at the mannerisms of this person. Is that a man right here? This is a man right here. You can tell from the way he stands. But look at the stance of Al Capone. Where are those hands on? They are so far away into the torso of the body, because Al Capone is 100% female. No man can stand this way in this effeminate way, because you have to understand that the way a female acts is in her genetics. The way she talks, the mannerisms, the way she walks, the way she carries her hands is all in the genes. It's not some sort of acting. No matter how a homosexual can try to put up a show as a man, it's always going to come out and you're going to say, oh, that's a man. Because it's genetic. The way males are genetic. The way females are genetic. And nothing can change that, because the skeletal structure can never be changed. When we say genetics, it's talking about your bones. That's what it means. You are the way you are because of your bones. If your bone structure is male, you're going to be acting male. If your bone structure is female, you're going to be acting female. That's just the way it works. And here is Al Capone, the gangster of America, fabricated by the Vatican, acting like a female because she is one and is not a man in any way. Don't fall for all this crap. False sense of history. Start looking with your eyes and seeing with your brain. Think about what you're seeing. Think about what you're reading. Think about what you're hearing. Understand your world. Don't just believe everything. Think about it. Because Al Capone here is 100% female and has been deceiving you guys for a very long time. If you were to end this video right here, this would be suffice. Because Al Capone is all woman. From the stance you can see. Alright, let's go to another picture. Here's Al Capone sitting, and still the same thing shows up. The long bottom of a female, because that's where his waist is at, the female waist, and it goes all the way down here, which is below the crotch. You can tell that this Q angle is below the crotch right here, and you can see from how thick the thighs are, because Al Capone is 100% female. Arch in the back. Long bottom of a female, starting from way right here all the way down here, because Al Capone is 100% female. Look at that face. This ain't no gangster face. This is a woman trying to wear my trunks. Alright, let's go to another picture. Here is Al Capone again. And you can tell right here the acute Q angle is below the crotch. Look at this. The long pelvic region. All the way down. It's not a short pelvic region like that of a man. Because Al Capone is no man. It's 100% female. Not a man in any way. Been lying to the world for so long. The Vatican made her to deceive the whole world into the gangster lifestyle. And when they couldn't handle it, they thought the gangster lifestyle was the way they wanted to make a lot of the males go, so they can put a lot of, especially the black males, in prison. When that did not go according to plan, they changed it now. You find out that everything is now effeminate. They're trying to make males to get in touch with their feelings, when a man was supposed to get in touch with his mind and think about stuff like a man should. A woman has to connect with her feelings, because her feelings are the foundation for raising children and creating a home. That's why females have feelings. It's a necessity to be a mother, to fall in love and make children. It's not a necessity for a man. A man thinks with you're a man first in your mind, not in your feelings and emotions. But now everything, they want to make men to be effeminate. Okay, let's go. Another picture of Al Capone right here. As you can see, this acute Q angle is below the crotch. Clear as night and day. Let me blow this up so you guys can see very well. It's an old picture, and we couldn't find a lot of pictures of this imposter man in Al Capone. But you can see that he starts spreading as a female. Just by the clothes, you can tell the acute Q angle is below the crotch right here. Because Al Capone is 100% female, and not a man in any way. Been lying and deceiving the whole world. The Vatican. And I pity her poor soul. I hope she found some peace, because she would have been taken from childhood and mutilated into being a man out of force, not by choice. That's why you can't slander people unnecessarily on this channel, because as much as we're trying to show you who they really are, we're also trying to save their souls, because your soul is the most important thing. The reason for all this deception that's happening in this world is trying to make you choose a side. Is trying to make you choose a side. Is trying to make you give your soul either to the devil or to God. All the deception. Don't get lost in transgenders. Don't get lost in the myth of white supremacy and the Vatican and everything that the Vatican is doing to us. And don't get lost in the fact that we are all black. Get lost in knowing that all the millions, not even millions, because there's no amount of name I can put on the money that's being spent. It's not quantifiable at this point. All this money spent is just to give you, make you make a choice. Because it doesn't make any sense for anybody to be spending the kind of money that the Vatican is spending on making lies, creating the lies, and keeping the lies afloat year after year, years after years, decade after decade, centuries after centuries. It doesn't make any sense. Why would you keep on spending this kind of money if money was that important? The money is not important. It's your soul that is. So that's why when you come on this channel, no slandering is allowed. You have to bring your facts, otherwise we put you in a can. All right, let's go to another picture of. We should end this video right here. This picture should suffice, because you can see right here that Al Capone is trying to put his hands on the male waist, but it does not exist. You can see how wide it is, and the acute Q angle, which is below the crotch, and the long pelvis of a female all the way down, because that's the female hip right here. Where do you think Al Capone's navel would be in this body? The navel will be right around here. Right around here, rather. I would think, where would it be? It's somewhere around here. And it's too high in the torso of the body regardless. Because it's a female body. You can see how the acute Q angle starts showing from where he's putting her hands on her hips. Because Al Capone is 100% female. I'm not a man in any way. Look at that. All right, so let's go. Another picture. And Al Capone sitting, you can see the round and fullness of the thighs, because it's a female thigh and not that of a man. And here are his supposed Vatican handlers right there looking on and making sure that she's acting according to plan, because Al Capone is 100% female, not a man in any way. All right. Okay, I think that's all the pictures we had for Al Capone. Let me just be sure that's all the pictures that we had. Yes, we couldn't find a lot of pictures of Al Capone, because the Vatican is keeping up this myth of Al Capone so that we wouldn't know that it's all a fabrication, giving us a false sense of history to control our minds. Because you have to understand, a man's mind is the most powerful tool in the world. If you can't control a person's mind, you can't control their body and their actions. The Vatican cannot control all of us physically in this world. Why? Because it's impossible to control someone physically if you haven't controlled their minds. So when you control their minds, the person will control himself physically for you. It's like a man trying to date a woman. If you can't get the woman in her mind to like you or love you, all right, or want to be around you, she's not going to want to see you. You can't control her body. You have to control her mind first. It's the same thing. It's the same concept that the Vatican is using to run us. It's the same concept that the devil found out not too many years ago, that you can't control people physically because it's impossible to if you can't control their mind. The devil just found that out. He did not always know that. That's why Everything in this world is based on mind control, which the Vatican does by telling us stories. And they control our minds by telling us stories. So we are trying to deprogram you from having those repetitive stories always in your mind by giving you some other stories to think of so you can know the truth. All right? So if you've learned something, please subscribe to our second channel, Tricks of the S Trade 2, in case this one goes down. And most importantly, save and get the book so you understand your world, so you don't wake up in the wrong place. All right? And with that, all information is on the screen on how to get in contact with us. And with that, we leave you with these words. Always and always, look with your eyes, but always see with your brain. Talk with you guys later.